So we have to talk about the specs here, specifically stack height. That is on the top of the mind because I just got back to Idaho, spent a week over in New Jersey, did a couple of reviews while I was over there, rad UFO on the road, also comparison, part one between the Cloud Ultra Pro and the Kip Summit Race, 2 high stack trail super shoes and 1 super high stack, super soft road super trainer. So having stack heights and numbers on my mind, came back. I wanted to have a refresher run on the Ultra Glide 4. Did that yesterday and was a little bit surprised that it didn't feel as high stacked as the specs would suggest it is. Salomon lists this at 4135, same as the S-Lab Ultra Glide, which I have. I did confirm that measurement at 4135, but the Ultra Glide 4 just didn't feel quite there. So I did remeasure. I didn't measure initially when I did my first video. Again, that was first look run, pretty much straight out of the box. So I did go ahead and measure, and very interestingly, I got only 34 at the heel. So that puts it at a total stack of 3428, 6 mil drop, which is quite a bit lower than the 4135 spec and also the 4135 which I measured for the Altamesa 500 V2 here. Wait a second, what is Salomon trying to pull here? Hold that thought. Coming back to the Altamesa here, they spec this one at 3630. 6 mil drop again, but I did measure again 41 at the heel, putting it at 4135. So they are mis-specifying, whatever you want to call it, but in the complete opposite direction. Once I kind of figured that out, I knew I would definitely want to lead off this comparison with that information. It's very important. We're not just talking 1 or 2 millimeters here. The North Face is known to underreport, and I think they even admit that themselves. They don't include insole, shovel board, some combination. Maybe they outsole or lugs too. They've told me actually specifically that you can add about 6 millimeters to their measurements, which I find to be the case. Salomon, on the other hand, they tend to be, I would say, pretty accurate. They listed the S-Lab version at 4135 and this one at the same. I went back, checked, double checked, rechecked. I do get 41, actually got 40 at this point for my S-Lab Ultra Glide. Little compression over time. I originally had that marked as 41 in terms of measurement, but again, checked and rechecked. 34 with this Ultra Glide 4, which is massive difference from the spec. And it is noticeable. Again, I got out on the run yesterday and this just came to my mind as, what's going on? I've been running in these high stack shoes and it just doesn't feel like it, even though specs say it is. The Altamesa here, on the other hand, feels every bit of 4135. You saw me handling the shoe in the Q&A. You saw that massive ground platform. Really no surprises here as to how this shoe feels on foot. It feels just about as wide as it looks. You might have noticed a couple little wobbles on that rocky entry section back there. Just a lot of width, no other way to put it, on the ground. A lot of platform to kind of catch stuff underfoot on the sides that you wouldn't necessarily grab with a narrower shoe. But again, that width gives you some certain amount of stability, that is for sure. So that discrepancy in specifications as well as relative to each other does set this test run up as a bit of a different comparison that I initially had in mind. I'm seeing this more as a different strokes for different folks training shoe type of comparison here, as opposed to shoes that are just closer together in terms of specs, ride, feel, that kind of thing. Here you have noticeably different setups that are going to work for different people, different runners based on style, also preference here. Kind of seeing it as a, to boil it down, a mid versus max setup here. I'm not going to rehash everything I went through in that first Q&A. If you skip through that, maybe go back and rewatch it. I answered a lot of questions from comments on Instagram and YouTube about the fit and feel of these. Let's talk about the weight here. Important as I'm climbing up here into this icy fog. 10.2 ounces here with the Salomon Ultra Glide 4. Very similar 10.3 ounces with the Altamesa 500 V2. Notably, the Salomon is a ½ ounce lighter than the S-Lab Ultra Glide version 1. We'll see what happens again with version 2 and its matrix upper. Hopefully, we'll be close in weight to this one. The Altamesa, I believe, has dropped weight from version 1. Again, I don't have version 1 to compare exactly. Also, relative to the Ultra Glide 4 here, again, do have a half size up in the North Face shoe, so perhaps half size down, the shoe might be even lighter, or at least the same weight as the Ultra Glide 4 with a much bigger stack and wider platform. For me, in my sizing, that low 10 ounce range, say from 10 ounces to 10.3, 10.4, that is kind of the sweet spot. Again, in my sizing, your shoe sizing will be different. But for me, for a training shoe, cushioned either mid or max distance type, potential for racing, I think that's the sweet spot in terms of weight, and both of these shoes hit it. So it puts it in range for me as not discounting either of these models straight off the bat as far as being heavy, which can be the case with a lot of high stack shoes. I get them and they're just like 11 ounces, 11.2, even 11.5, and it's like, okay, I could see them working for bigger runners, bulkier, heavier runners, probably being even advantageous for those types of runners. But for me personally, a little bit too much. You've heard me complaining about our winter or lack of winter so far in Idaho. We've got none of this stuff, none of this snow down in the valley. This is actually more like built up frost from an inversion layer up above this, where our ski hill is, Bogus Basin. They're above the inversion layer up in blue skies and sun. So below and above what I'm running in right now. No snow, terrible. I'm not gonna go further up here. I'm gonna be running through, there were some patches of ice over there. I know it's just gonna get icy as I go further on. I'll head back down a little bit, and then there's the trail that shoots a little bit lower across. I think that'll get me a better chance of feeling out the ride here, as it was in my previous A/B test run. Running in snow and ice, super fun, challenging with the weather conditions. This is better than it was my last test run in Jersey, but not the best for feeling out the ride and really comparing shoes to each other. Gonna head across over there. Both shoes feel pretty stable coming down here, kind of in different ways though. Again, that platform of the North Face shoe really holds the foot well in terms of not wanting to roll in either direction unless you really step on something teetery, something sharp. A Salomon, a little bit more agile, narrow feel on the ground. Feel like I could move my foot around more. Don't want to plow through as much with the Salomon. Again, less stack underfoot, less cushion, a little less forgiving, a little more ground feel at the forefoot as I'm coming down here. Mid stack versus max, again, comes into play. Steep, hard descents. Drop down a little bit. I was up there before, in the middle there, came lower, and I'm gonna work a little bit up, but not as high as there, so should have a nice dry track. Still climbing a little bit more gradually up here. Both shoes are very nice climbing shoes. Again, 10.2, 10.3 ounces, not an excessive amount to drag up within this class of shoe. Definitely feeling more flex at the ball of the foot with the Salomon here. More ground feel like I'm able to push a little bit more directly into the ground underneath the shoe. The Altamesa here definitely blunting a lot of that feel. Definitely feel like I'm pushing more into the midsole than the ground. Could be a good thing. longer distances. Had a question about Cocodona in the comments. That may be, again, what you're looking for. Max over mid here with the Salomon. No plates in either shoe, and I would say that's probably best for training miles. I don't think they're lacking in protection in that department. You're definitely gonna get more with the Altamesa. Again, I'm measuring 7 mil more stack. There's just more underfoot. Without even the plate in the mix, you're more protected from the ground in the North Face shoe compared to Salomon. Some may prefer that enhanced ground feel when climbing in the Salomon. Also, got to think about technical terrain, agility. Clearly, this Ultra Glide 4 is going to have the edge. Not a super fast technical shoe, but compared to the Altamesa here, again, I talked about less platform, feels more agile, more ground feel. That just adds up to feeling a little bit more connected to the ground than the North Face shoe here. So much more midsole underfoot with the North Face shoe. So much of a wider platform on the ground, yet virtually identical in weight. What gives here? Okay, let's talk about the foams. You've got straight OptiFoam here with the Ultra Glide 4. With that S-Lab model, you do have a blend of OptiFoam, OptiFoam Plus, Energy Foam Plus, whatever you want to call them. Softer, more energetic layer baked into those shoes, but not here. Straight OptiFoam here. It's a EVA olefin blend. Just feels more stable, denser, likely adds to that, or I guess you would say evens out that weight difference with the North Face being, or having, I should say, much more foam, yet being the same weight. So likely a denser foam here. Less bouncy feel underfoot. Very stable. I think it works well as a training shoe if you don't quite like that bouncy ride of some of the modern super shoes. The Altamesa 500 here is not terribly bouncy. It does feel more energetic though, but thinking of shoe like the upcoming Kip Summit Max and a race model for that matter, very bouncy ATPU midsoles there. Totally different than what you're getting with the Ultra Glide 4. Definitely feels like a mid-level stack. Again, I was surprised. 41.35. I remeasured the S-Lab model. That one was 41.35. Having these shoes on side by side, I could feel the difference. I mean, I don't know how they came up with those specs, but that S-Lab version is higher in stack. No doubt about it, and it feels closer in that regard to the North Face shoe on my foot here. Here you're going down in weight, giving it a really nice feel on foot, the Ultra Glide 4 here, but you're not getting that probably modern, energetic, super foam that's in a lot of training shoes out there. You do have that with the North Face here, Dream Foam, Nitro TPU. They're packing 41.35 of stack into a 10.3 ounce shoe with a massively wide ground platform. So it's definitely the lighter, airier foam. Feels more energetic on foot, but probably not as bouncy. Definitely not as bouncy as some of those other North Face shoes. Probably feels closest to the Endurance 4. Pro 3 definitely has crazy amount of response and bounce. But that foam itself, plus the plates, Sky 2 has a carbon fiber plate, and Infinite is also just closer to the ground. Feels like a quicker shoe, although I gotta check the weight on that. It's not, may not even be lighter than this one. But the feel of the cushioning here, it's kind of subtle on the trails. You don't really notice that bounce. I dropped my daughter off at rock school about a week ago in Canal Path. I wanted to test these out on flatter running. They were great, felt nice and quick, but there's a little kind of road ramp to get off the canal, and I can get a little 1 minute hill rep in there. And on that harder surface, the road there, I really noticed the bounce. I thought it would be super sluggish doing kind of a like hill rep on the road in this giant, massive trail shoe, but I was really surprised by the level of bounce that I felt. Quick little pause up here to take a little sip. Looking down here, kind of right over there is where I paused to do my close-up. Then you could see that's the little hill, or big hill as you go up there, winding up into the fog. That's where I did my little hill rep up and down. Of course, icy up in there. And then I wound my way back around there, and I'm kind of working my way this way now. Started working my way back here. I will give you some actual numbers here as far as ground platform, talking about it a lot. Might as well show you what I'm talking about. Got a massive 122 85/96 here with the North Face shoe, perhaps one of the widest platforms out there, rivaled by the Brooks Caldera. Also, in terms of width at the midfoot, Kip Summit models, both Race and Max. Forgot to note the platform on the Salomon shoe in my little cheat sheet here. It's up on the screen, you can see it. One thing I will note is, posted a pic on Instagram with the platform measurements, and I took that from the S-Lab model that I have because I laid them down side by side. They were roughly similar, and I didn't remeasure this one, and I just put the numbers up there because they were close enough. So they are close enough, but this one is curiously a little bit wider. Same US 9.5 here, but just notably in the middle of the foot and also under the heel. I'm not sure if this is a manufacturing, just slight variation here. Again, same US 9.5 sizes here, but the regular Ultra Glide 4 here is a touch wider at the midfoot and under the heel. Just thought I'd point that out in case anybody looked at my Instagram and wondering about any minor discrepancies. Essentially, same ride, same platform on the ground between the S-Lab and this one here. Mini gear tidbit here. I'm wearing these Flipmits here. I got them in for test. It's that light blue one there. Talked about in a previous video having a darn tough beer koozie, and that working pretty well to keep my wrist warm. Same thing here. I've got these new craft gloves. Forgot what they're called. Bought them at REI. They have a very high cuff. That's why I have these kind of Flipmits rolled up here as more like wristbands, but you can see the kind of thumb hole there. They don't have fingers on those Flipmits. This is my first run in them today. Again, very cold. I'm wearing my Patagonia Airshed here, and these are just like thin fabric sleeves. So I got a couple light base layer, mid layer, and this little sleeve here is essentially not adding any warmth. So throwing these Flipmits on to keep my wrist warm and in turn keep my fingers warm, which they are. This craft glove does have a little hood there, which I wasn't using because Flipmits are doing their job. Gorgeous running conditions out here today. A little bit cold, a little bit frosty, as you can see, but clear path. I guess no snow, bad for skiing. Good for trail running around here. If you watched both of my first run, first look videos on these models, you'll probably already know that I really like both of these shoes. Something I mentioned in the very beginning, buried the lead a little bit. Different strokes for different folks set up here, especially now that I remeasure that Salomon midsole. If you want a, say, I hate to use the term old school all the time, talked about that a lot in my Scirocco 2 Terra Hiker 10 comparison video. Those are kind of lighter weight models, and I talked about the Nike shoe perhaps being not as exciting for sure as the Scirocco 2, but solid underfoot. So in the, say, lightweight category of everyday type of trail running shoes, those that like that quote unquote old school ride, that may be something you're looking for, and the same does apply here, I would say, with the Ultra Glide 4. There's nothing like fancy about it. I guess you can say those relieve spheres are something of a fancy element. Maybe you believe it's marketing fluff. I don't know. They feel pretty good underfoot. They are not obtrusive in any way. I talked about those couple little depressions. Seem to work well for me. Again, they're not adding weight, so it is a very smooth riding shoe with a, I would say, old schoolish, no nonsense, not quite ancient midsole, EVA here, but with the olefin blended in. it does give it a little energy, just not that real noticeable bounce that you get with some of those other super trainer type foams, both trail and road. Hit a little downhill here on my way back, and this is kind of an area where I like the North Face shoe. As long as you feel comfortable managing that wider platform, as long as you're not in crazy technical terrain, this is really not a shoe for that. But if you're running down maybe a little bit rocky stuff that you can pick your way through, hop over, or in the case of that section back there, little small stuff, just kind of roll right over them. 4135 stack. We'll get this right now. I don't really have to think about it. Salomon is not an issue, but I could at times feel stuff coming through to the ball of my foot, front of the foot. Again, it's mid stack here versus high stack. It's pretty well blunted in terms of rocks that impact with the Salomon, but it's really just gobbled up with the Altamesa. If you want that, if you like that, this is the shoe for you. If you don't like feeling disconnected from the ground, like having that sensation of not feeling the ground, maybe you want a little more connection, that's where you would lean towards the Ultra Glide 4 in terms of this comparison. Also, similarly to the Shirako 2 in that previous lightweight comparison I was talking about earlier. Both shoes are very comfortable on foot. I talked about the foothold, foot wrapping around the top of the foot, but underfoot neutral, arch contouring in both. Probably a touch more support under the arch in the Altamesa compared to the Ultra Glide 4, but probably less than the other North Face Vective models that have that more rocker feel and geometry. This one, a little flatter, still kind of, I would call it gradual, moderate support under the arch. Nothing obtrusive in any way, just smooth riding, supportive, comfortable. What you want really in a training shoe. Something just get out of the way, let me run. Beyond training, as far as racing, I would say the Altamesa definitely has the edge. I think most runners are generally nowadays looking for that enhanced level of cushion, that more modern, more energetic foam underfoot. I think also the geometry of the Altamesa is just a little more set it and forget it, where the Ultra Glide 4 works with that ground feel as a training shoe. I think for especially maybe mid-pack runners, back of the back runners, and I'm curious to see even pros if that kind of set it and forget it geometry of the Altamesa is just going to end up being efficient for longer ultra races. I really do see the Ultra Glide 4 as a training companion to hopefully the lighter weight S-Lab Ultra Glide 2 that will be coming out. Even the higher stacked, more deeply cushioned version 1, if that shoe doesn't give you any issues, but it kind of slots more in as that training shoe, whereas the Altamesa 500 here, yes, it is a super training shoe, but I feel like it's just a little bit more potential to actually race in this shoe itself, go beyond training in this one. Thank you for tuning in once again to Humble Running. Check out www.humblerunning.com, of course. If you have any questions, let me know, especially what you think about this Q&A session in the beginning. If you did stay tuned into that one, I kind of liked it. Let me know if you want to see that in the future or get straight into the running. I want to hear your comments. If in that format something did slip my mind, I went into it with the intention of covering more stuff, but perhaps I thought I covered something in the Q&A and I forgot about it on the run. Any questions, let me know down in the comments. And again, I opened up paid subscriptions on my Substack, humblerunning.com, if you want to have, I guess I would say, guaranteed answers to your questions, a spot where you can ask me questions and know that I'm going to check there. It's not going to get lost in the sauce of YouTube comments or anything. Please check that out. Of course, let me know what other comps you would like to see. As a reminder, the Ultra Glide 4 is out right now. Came out last month. It is $160. I have a link in the description down below. The Altamesa 500 here will be releasing in February. It's going to be $170, $10 more. So I think prices are about right. Slightly more range for potential racing here. A little more stack underfoot, $10 extra. Unless you like the feel of the Salomon, you want more ground feel, you can save yourself $10 and go with that one. I'll have links, or I'll add links to the description. When the North Face shoe comes out, let me know what other comps you would like to see against this one. I know Kip Summit Max is fresh on everyone's mind, and that is fresh on my mind too. Have it in the truck, so probably take a closer look at that one. Full review is due. Have a lot of other stuff in the hopper, so just stay tuned to the channel. More stuff coming. I'm back in Idaho, back on the trails. Winter is not here. I can run around as much as I want and answer your questions, bring you more content. Thank you for tuning in. I will see you back out on the trails in the next one.